All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's convocation. My name is Suzanne East. I'm the Associate Academic Dean, and I would love to invite you to get in the habit of when 10 o'clock hits, phones go away, homework goes away, and you resist the urge to talk to the person next to you, no matter how entertaining or important they are. Just practice being present and curious about whatever is here. So last week, we gathered for a chapel, and chapels tend to focus on community worship and spiritual formation. And this week is a convocation, or sometimes we talk about convo. These are times for us to gather together as a community, hear from different parts of campus, sometimes focus on a topic and learning together. Think of it as one big whole campus classroom. Today, we are going to hear from 3 different faculty about artificial intelligence and think together about this topic. But before we get into the meat of things, I want to do a quick low-tech poll. So I'm going to put 3 statements up here, and I would like you all to either raise your hand for yes, bring it kind of to the middle for sort of, it depends, so, and keep your hand down if your response is no. And folks on the platform, you play along too, okay? So first, I have knowingly used generative AI to help me do my work, and I'm gonna respond as well. Yes, sometimes a little bit, or no. And take a minute, look around, see where we are. Okay. Number 2. Oops. Number 2. I am concerned that generative AI will do more harm than good. Yes, sort of, or no. Interesting. Okay. And finally, I wish I had more opportunities to learn about helpful ethical uses of AI tools. Yes, middle, or no? All right, interesting to see where we all fall. So today's convocation is going to address these types of questions. How are we using AI? How will it impact our work? And what are some of the ethics that should guide the way we use these new tools? No one field of study alone has all the wisdom on this topic, which is why we have 3 wise speakers today. To fully explore this new territory, we need our ethicists to help us think about acceptable uses that align with our shared values. We need our English and Comm faculty to be helping us think about how these tools are reshaping the way we write and compose. And we need our business faculty who are already using a lot of these tools in their classes with their students to make them workplace ready. Each of you, your majors and your field of study has an important piece of the conversation. So today's convo is going to give us 3 different perspectives on AI, and it is not a debate. No one of these folks is right or best. Rather, the wisdom is going to come from hearing these 3 perspectives in conversation with one another. We will hear first from Alicia Lilliquist, Assistant Professor of Business, and she is staying up to date on how AI is showing up in the business landscape. Then we'll hear from Fritz Hartman, who is the director of our library, and a lot of you interact with Fritz when you're doing text-based research in the library. And finally, we'll hear from Luke Beck-Kreider, Assistant Professor of Religion and Sustainability, on some ethical considerations that might guide our use. Alicia, welcome.
Setting my timer so I don't wander. All right. So, disclaimer. I am not at all an expert in AI, but it is impossible to read, listen, watch, discuss anything in business and not have AI come up in some way, shape, or form. Therefore, every day I use it, I learn more about it, and try to gain a little bit of insight about how it is evolving and shaping the world in which we live. And I believe that AI is a story, a transformational innovation and entrepreneurship. And we are watching the market in real time try to figure out what is the business case for this new technology. New technologies enter and disrupt the world as we know it all the time. And this is nothing new. And in fact, we were laying the groundwork for AI a long time ago, all the way back in the Industrial Revolution. So Samuel Morse and Alexander Graham Bell, they didn't just invent new devices, they forever changed the way humanity shared ideas, information. We were able to bring emotions, bridging distances that once seemed insurmountable. Their innovations laid the foundation for the world of instant communication that we now live in today, forever shaping the fabric of modern society. Machines and technologies from the Industrial Revolution created and ignited a revolution that reshaped the world, forever transforming communication and accelerating productivity and driving the global economy and into the world of the modern machine era. These innovations were not just local, they were global and far-reaching. And back in the 19th and 20th century, a computer, it wasn't a machine. It was a job description for a person whose job was to perform complex calculations by hand. But as the demands for speed and capacity grew, so did the realization that human capability alone couldn't keep up. And this recognition set the stage for something bigger, the need for machines that could compute faster and handle more complexity. So IBM, they came along and introduced the first scientific computer in 1952. And it took up 2 parking spaces. 2 parking spaces, a computer. Fast forward 1984, Steve Jobs brought us the Macintosh. Right? A little bit smaller, right? In graphic interface, and a mouse. This was the personal computer, right? A new innovation, something that we continue to use today. Behind the scenes, the internet, all this innovation that we now continue to rely on. Apple was back again in 2007 with what invention? The iPhone. And ushered in the smartphone era with digital connectivity. Personal computers became pocket-sized, and our ability to connect and compute and play lots and lots of Angry Birds. And again, at this time, behind the scenes, data scientists were developing ways to connect systems and enable them to perform increasingly complex tasks by leveraging vast amounts of data. And they created predictive models and real-time decision supports and systems that assist machines and operators in optimizing performance and improving efficiencies. And these advancements helped companies streamline their operations, their processes, reduce waste, and cut cost. As consumers, we experience the benefits of this technology in various ways, such as lower utility bills or faster resolutions when services, like our internet, experience outages, a very frustrating thing. So it took us 175 years to go from the invention of the telegraph to a little red bird in a slingshot. And it took just 7 years to go from that little red bird to the founding of OpenAI. That was really fast. And that's what we're experiencing. It's that rapid pace of innovation, with multiple waves of new technology happening within our lifetimes. AI is advancing fast, but what's really speeding things up is how easily we can now access massive computing power through tools like large language models. Today, we don't need to know a programming language. We can speak our natural language, use the power of computing, have it solve complex problems, and then speak those solutions back to us in our natural language. It's both exciting and a little overwhelming, but it's at its core, it's still just ones and zeros. So remember how I said the market is still trying to figure out what is the business case? Think of it like this. We are just planting a tree, but it's still in its early stages. The trunk is growing, but the branches and leaves, the full potential, are still developing. That is where we are right now with AI. As one AI entrepreneur put it, we are still at the genesis stage. And this genesis stage is filled with over 2,011 different companies figuring it out, playing in this space, making branches, having leaves, growing this amazing tree, and the landscape will continue to evolve. These companies will merge, they will be acquired, some will fail, but the future is exciting. So be curious, experiment, try these out in your field, and see how this tree will grow. Thank you.
All right, quick show of hands. How many of you know how to bridle a horse? Oh, okay. How many of you have hitched a horse to a cart? Okay, fewer. And how many of you rode a horse to get to Goshen College today? Okay, I just wanted to know. Okay, take a look at this. I mean, it's boring, but this article was published. It's an academic article. It's about lithium-ion batteries. It was published in 2019. It basically focuses on current research at the time about lithium-ion batteries. Not that it basically, the researchers looked at all the articles about lithium-ion batteries. What they did is they then summarized the articles and then wrote a little paper about where it is today. Kind of dry and boring. Here's the kicker. Not one of it wasn't done by a human being. This was done by an algorithm. Wiley, your professors will know who that publisher is there. They live up to their name. Put together this program to do it. At the time, in the library world, we were all like, wow. But here's the thing. We were like, okay. It was okay, but no one could really read it. Like the language was there, but it took so long to read it. And it took gobs of time to write the program. So we're like, whatever. And then along came large language models, what you call ChatGPT. Suddenly we got algorithms capable of writing a poem, of, making great lists, of really turning that phrase like you want it to. So what is going to happen when you combine a research algorithm, AI, whatever you want to call it, with a large language model? Well, EBSCO, right now, and for the last 6 months, has been teamed up with at least 40 universities with the express goal of making an AI algorithm, I gotta read this now, capable with just a few searches of returning results, evaluating those results, and not only producing a list of results back to you of academic searches, but also analyzing and contextualizing those results, basically telling you what each article is about, and maybe being able to present it in a paper of the citation choice of your choice. Basically, write your research paper for you. Let me, in case that doesn't start to gel for our community, I think that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, that we will have the capability to do that, and that is going to enter our academic community. I think there will be an ugly period of time in which we wrestle with just how do we assess student work, and what are we assessing, and where do we go from here? And it means that I think new skills, not new skills, probably old skills we always knew, but they bring on more importance. So, back to horses. Remember when I have an analogy for you, okay? In 1900, there were 4,000 cars on the road, and there were 21 million horses. By 1920, there were more horses than automobiles, and by 1950, horse, what's that, right? We all had a car. In 50 just short years. But guess what happened right away? Yeah, we didn't know how to drive those cars very well on roads. A horse and a car basically kind of do the same thing. I mean, they don't both eat hay, but you know what I mean. They take you from point A to point B on a road. But in 1913, 33.38 people per 10,000 vehicles on the road died. Today, that number is 1.5. That's a 95% improvement. So what happened? What did we do? Well, I think what we did is you all went to driving school. I did. The rules of the road, we got ourselves a bunch of signs. You know, we painted lines on the road to help us out because the speed was so much faster. We made a whole bunch of stupid mistakes, but we learned from those mistakes. And I think that's what's going to happen here in the AI realm. The speed is going to go faster, but sometimes the basics of the road, the very basics, are going to take on more importance. I think we will have to be able to, now this is my big thing, so we will have to be able to assess the quality of our source material, have even higher academic integrity standards for ourselves, and we will have to have at least a background knowledge of what the AI is doing. I think these are going to be the most critical skills we will have, well, some of the most critical skills we'll have to learn going forward, because we're just going so much faster. I also happen to think librarians play a critical role in that transition. And to that end, I think we'll have to pay special attention to our guiding principles, to our ethics as we approach this space, which I believe Luke is going to talk about right now. And finally, I want to say, I sincerely believe that you all got this. This is something I think you're going to fly with. But try to remember that there will be people in your lives who will be in the buggy age for a very long time. So try to be compassionate. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. So I'm supposed to say something about AI at Goshen from my perspective as someone who studies ethics. So ethics is about reflecting on what's right or wrong to do and what it means to live a good, happy, fulfilling life. So it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to say this morning. I sat down to write a bunch of times, opened my laptop, put my fingers on the keys, took them away, scratched my head, fixed my glasses, put my head in my hands, sat there for like 40 minutes, put my hands on the keys, took them away again. And what was happening during all this time, and the reason that I couldn't bring myself to type, is that in my head, I was traveling from bench to bench, and I was doing my very best from my very limited capacity to put myself in many different pairs of shoes. I was imagining myself where you are now, listening to me up here. I was trying to imagine what it might be like to sit where you sit, with these incredibly powerful tools at your disposal, with all the different kinds of work that you're doing across so many different fields and disciplines, and all the different kind of pressures and responsibilities, and all the high and low levels of privilege and resources, different first language, different cognitive styles, and then about to enter a labor economy and a diverse set of professions that will be deeply impacted, if not transformed, by this new technology. And I fixed my glasses and I scratched my head. And I thought, I'm not sure I know what to say about the rights and wrongs of AI to Goshen College. So here's what I decided. I decided I'm going to tell that little story about why this was hard to write, and I'm going to use that story to make a point. And then, in the end, I'm going to argue that the hard work of figuring out what we each think and what we want to communicate to other people is a fundamental human activity that's worth protecting and preserving. Okay, so that story that I told about how writing this was hard because I was thinking about my audience and I was trying to see things from their perspective and confronting through that the limits of my own perspective and struggling through that to figure out what from my limited perspective I could say and how to say it in a way that reaches from me to someone else in a meaningful way. That story is not just my story. That's a story about what writing is. Anytime you sit down to write something for a class or for whatever else, you're faced with this challenge. You have to figure out what you want to say and how to put it into words that will reach from you to another person or some other people. And so you pause to think about those other people and what their thoughts and perspectives might be. And you write, trying to communicate something in a way that can get through to them. This is one of the things that I've been telling my students about why I don't want them to use AI when they write things for my class. Because writing is an ethical act. It requires self-reflection and knowing your own mind. Writing involves empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, trying to see something from their perspective. It requires trying to reach out to that person and share something with them. So writing is an exercise in vulnerability, in empathy, and in self-understanding, even if you're not writing about yourself. So I've been telling my students not to use AI for their writing because I think that kind of the whole point of education at a place like Goshen is that we go through those kinds of exercises. The curriculum, the assignments are basically, we do stuff that exercises the muscles we need to become good people. Ethically, socially, intellectually well-equipped, empowered, ready for the world with a sense of belonging. Writing your own ideas in your own voice is one example. It exercises your muscles for empathy, vulnerability, self-understanding. So from my perspective, the main problem with having ChatGPT write for us is not that it's dishonest, it's that it defeats the basic purpose of a liberal arts education. So that's more or less what I've been telling my own students. Okay, but college isn't just about writing. What about organic chemistry, graphic design, kinesiology, business, nursing? In some cases, AI is all over these fields. So maybe learning to use AI appropriately and well is now a crucial part of becoming well-equipped, empowered, ready for the world. So if certain ways of using AI can support rather than degrade the GC goals of becoming good people, ethically, socially, and intellectually well-equipped, empowered, ready for the world with a sense of belonging, then great. Let's identify and create those uses, make them available, and make sure that we use them in ways that close rather than widen the gaps between our most advantaged and our most disadvantaged students. But I want to end with a word of caution. Because, I have slides here. There's nothing on these slides, I just made them because they made them. Okay, all right. But I want to end with a word of caution. Because technological innovations have a way of gradually controlling us, rather than us controlling them. Some of you saw the movie Oppenheimer last year about the creation of the atomic bomb. If you didn't see it, it's about the creation of the atomic bomb. And so in the film, right, it shows what really happened in history. Once you build the bomb, it becomes irrational not to use it. Once you use the technology, it starts to seem crazy or even dangerous not to build more and bigger ones, and once in a while to use those. I could give lots and lots of examples of this. Once you make the technology, you have to use it. I know that AI is not a nuclear weapon, but I worry about that technological coercion with AI. Will we end up sort of forced into how and whether we use it? And what will be the cost of that coercion? For me, one of the most valuable, one of the most morally significant and deeply human tasks in life is figuring out, what do we actually think? What we want to say to others, including others who may be different than us. So in my view, one of the biggest moral hazards of AI is that it may become overwhelmingly tempting, even necessary, to let the robots think for us, and so to let them do all the work that we ourselves need to sustain our abilities to think for ourselves and make judgments and decisions and conclusions, to think with our emotions and our bodies, and to think in conversation with embodied others, other human beings. So I think, as a college community, we should consider how to use AI in ways that support us in cultivating our core values, growing core capacities for the kinds of lives we want to live. But I also think, as a college community, we need to protect and preserve the practices by which we exercise the muscles of figuring out what you actually think and what you want to say and do about it with others. Thanks.
We hope that this Convo today is the start of ongoing conversations. As an academic institution, we are the perfect place to be having these kinds of conversations about what we should be learning and how we should be using these new tools. So keep the conversation going and have a good day.